supposed to be an easy hit. You were supposed to be Slingshot.
They brought a Slingshot to a war. He died.
God, let me come. Not like this.
Say my name.
Alpha Bravo!
You're goddamn right.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Internet Personality Vangelus, and this is Alpha Bravo, the controversial helicopter of the first Deluxe wave of Combiner Wars, and the source of much belly aching until we got confirmation of a Slingshot figure happening in Japan, and most likely North America as well. Oh, Internet! Alpha Bravo breaks the friggin' mold and assumes the form of a helicopter. It's avant-garde! It's still an aircraft! So this is a passenger helicopter, but because Alpha Bravo gets his business done, it's a passenger helicopter with giant triple missile arrays bolted on the sides, and coincidentally hiding his robot mode hands. Alpha Bravo's mostly stark white, with big blue stripes and some black and orangey brown. So, Slingshot's colors. Much respect to the Fallen, yo. The blades can spin, though if you really get into it, you'll start bending them at the axis connection points. Also, the tail fin propeller can turn left and right, though this is mostly for the sake of, well, fitting him into his packaging. As far as weapon storage, Alpha Bravo's gun can plug underslung into either of his fist holes or the air vent peg holes up top. His hand-foot gun can only store directly underneath the body of his alt mode. This does mean he can use it as landing gear, I guess, but this also means you can have a passenger helicopter armed with double triple missiles, double Gatling guns, and a heavy machine gun. Passenger helicopter! Alpha Bravo's cockpit splits and folds open pretty intensely, adding a bunch of steps to his packaging's number of steps blurb, but after that he basically transforms nearly identically to Firefly. In fact, the shoulders do even less. It's just as quick and solid as Firefly's conversion, but where Firefly didn't really know what to do with his tail fin, Alpha Bravo doesn't really know what to do with his propeller. I just fold it up and stuff it between his backpack fins like this. The hinge the axis is pinned to allows you to adjust the tension of that in-stuffery, so yay! This guy takes his succession of Slingshot's position so seriously, he's basically painted himself to resemble that goggle-eyed aerial bot, albeit with less black and more gray and a blue visor rather than orange aviators. He's not as striking to look at as Firefly, though that's partly because Firefly had so much red-on-white contrast. Alpha Bravo's still got a good color composition, and despite all his white, he avoids looking too blanched in any one part. He doesn't have the roid shoulder super robot aesthetics of Firefly, looking slimmer and, well, even more like a posable G1 limb. His head sculpt is pretty angry and face-plated, and listen, he looks a lot like he's gonna be redecoed as Blades from the Protectobots. Depending on the remolding, it looks like he could be Vortex and or Blastoff from the Combaticons. I don't mind it, but don't feel crazy if you see another robot in a Slingshot jumpsuit when you look at him. The hardcore of Alpha Bravo manifests in his weaponry, where his personal firearm is a belt-fed machine gun, and his hand-foot gun has twin Gatling guns. Did I mention he has triple missile racks on his forearms? This comes to a wonderful head in his arm mode, where he provides his combiner aggregate with knuckle-mounted Gatling guns. Do I need to explain this? Spin 'em up, blaze the barrels, and friggin' punch things with deadly gunfire! Unfortunately, the rest of his arm mode is kind of boring, as his arms and backpack are basically in the same position that they were in robot mode. Also, you can't really deploy the propeller to spin up and saw blade some fools, so opportunity missed. The leg mode's a lot less exciting outside of Gatling gun toes! Okay, I'll stop. It's basically a stick, and if you don't want the propeller waggling around, you have to untab and angle the mounting hinge of the axis. At least there's some kneecap fin detailing. Remember how Firefly could do that cool thing where his head could look up? So can Alpha Bravo. He's got the same kind of ball joint setup, and I don't actually remember if I showed this, but you can also use the combiner joint if you want to get him to really just glare. Like, I know what you did. His shoulders, as you can see, are ball jointed. They are not on that crazy, like, separate moving rotator stalk like Firefly's, but they still have a fine range of motion due to the cuts up top. His elbows are on, similar to Firefly, those detented kind of clickety joints that are all soft and buttery. There's a bicep swivel, no wrist joint, but a waist joint. All these Deluxe guys, their waist joints are slightly off-center because the center of axis is here, due to the fact that these guys can also become arms, but it still works just fine. He still looks ready for the business. As for his hips, they are on ball socket joints, and guess what, yo? He can... well, he can't go full splits, but they can go pretty far out nonetheless. I'm pretty impressed by that. That makes me happy. There are dedicated thigh swivels on a mushroom peg. There is a knee joint that goes a solid 90. Couldn't really go much farther due to the way that the legs are all chunked down there. As I showed on Firefly, if you do want to ruin his legs, you can get things to go a little bit farther, but then that looks terrible. So why would you do that? I don't know, but the option is there. If you want to call this a point of articulation, his feet can do that. So I guess he's hovering and just letting his ankles go loose because he don't care. And then I don't know, you can waggle this thing back here like a tail. And as I said, you know, this stuff can be a bit of a bummer. You got to kind of move it up a bit just to get all the friction and tension to hold them propellers in place. Alpha Bravo's pretty solid, hitting most of the marks in all 4 of his modes. There's a case to be made for calling him one of the best in the first wave, but the bulk of his limb modes are so by the book that I can't place him above the angular dynamicism of Firefly. That said, he is really strong, and his cleaner alt mode probably puts him up there with Dragstrip as one of the 2 strongest molds, my own biases aside. But this is a review, so let's keep on with the bias. Let's get into how mad I am that this guy happened instead of Slingshot, except I'm not. Slingshot was an easy redeco that I was sure to see happen as soon as these toys were announced, and lo and behold, he is. I still really dig Alpha Bravo. I don't think it's ridiculous for a helicopter to take part in a Superion orgy. He looks fine alongside his teammates. Alpha Bravo is fine. He's also a pretty good deluxe toy, and even if you skip this version of the mold, I'm sure you'll be getting it later on in another color scheme. But if you aren't mad about the new savior of G1, I doubt you'll regret picking this guy up. Anyway, this has been Internet Personality Vangelus, and I hope you're all ready and set for all of this internet fist fighting to happen all over again when Wave 2 hits, and people discover the Stunticon known as Off-Road.